Let the word get out. Do a little bop here on post. And then we'll do a little spout off on spoutable. Rocket not carry. Oh, good lord. Okay, enough of that. We'll get back to that. Welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles. I am your host, Kalari GXC. There is so much to talk about, but I want to kick off with a happy Women's History Day. I know that right now it is hard to feel in a celebratory mood. Even though my state personally has a female governor who happens to be a Democrat who's working her hardest despite certain legislators trying to push back against her for women's rights, our right to choose, our rights for certain medicines. We are dealing with states like Florida, which I'm going to get to a bit more later on today, Arkansas, Ohio, even, that are trying to push restrictive measures for women's rights. So it's kind of hard when you think back on women's history, when you think about Fannie Lou Hamer, when you think about Gloria Steinem, when you think about all the women who have worked so hard to prove that we can be leaders, that we deserve equal say, equal pay, equal place in our society, when you see how hard it is to continue in this digital age and realize that there are people that still view our gender as less than, as deserving of less, as just fuckable meatbags or baby incubators, as I've said several times, it is frustrating. We women have to get it together because it really is on us as we continue to have these little cutesy months. Last month was Black History Month. Yeah, it was nice celebrating. We had the launch of Spoutable, which is a month old now, despite people trying to attack the site. But we are under constant attack for our gender, and it is beyond time for women to open our eyes and realize that our place is any damn where we want. And we have to stop allowing this whole idea that we are the lesser than, we are the fairer than, we are weaker than gender. Because if we continue that fallacy, even if you think that, oh, it makes me feel good to be protected, I just have to ignore him beating me. I just have to ignore him looking because I'm starting to feel or look a little bit older than what he wants. We allow this disgusting loop based on our gender to have gone on for far too long, and it really is on us women. Welcome to the chat, Solomon Isles. Big hugs to you. I just feel like as we kick off Women's History Month, it's important, especially since they're pushing back against actual history, for us to make our own marks. Far too long, people have made women feel like our voices shouldn't be too loud, shouldn't be too smart, shouldn't inject ourselves, and that is not okay. With so many issues that we need to tackle, everything from our environment and climate to racism in itself, it will take both male and female voices raising up together. It will take minds and eyes opening to the problems. And there are a lot of problems. I'm going to get right to it. Let me see if I can pull this up, because it is very frustrating to me, these stories, but I want to make sure. Let's see. There we go. Expose. Narrator of neo-Nazi terrorgram, promoter of mass shootings. Now, granted, this article was long, and a lot of it was to explain a global terror cell that is based more overseas, but it has its reach over here in America. And I don't want to be hyperbolic, but as somebody who's existed in America as a black soul, it has been hard enough trying to figure out my place in my own fucking country. And when you see that our country can put people on lists, there have been several terror watch lists. especially after 9/11. They couldn't wait to round up and put anybody who seemed suspicious on a watch list. And when I read this article and just scrolling through it, the ridiculousness of it, because these same people will accuse Muslim groups. They target and terrorize both African American, Native American, Asian, Southeast, and indigenous people. Anybody who isn't supposedly white is a target by them. And these groups are all over our globe. But the worst part about what they've been doing with this so-called white supremacist terrorist cell group, which I hate even trying to say all that. So much words to just say hateful bigots. Can we not do all this? Thank you. I don't need it to. It's going to change colors. Either way, the main gist of this is that. Did I exit out? I didn't want to bring up the spoutable stuff yet. Or the extra stuff. Alright. Let's refresh that. Love these technical difficulties. I guess this group is called Telegram. And the problem with Telegram was it's not just the same run of the mill, pushing neo Nazi, we hate the Jews, we hate the blacks, we hate the Asians, we hate everybody who isn't identifiable white. These people have been encouraging acts of terror. And what they do is they find low self-esteem, easily malleable brain morons, basically, mostly young males, because the females will be used as their little honeypot to bring the young males in. They won't be sacrificed normally. No, they want the young males because they are easy to indoctrinate, continue to feed that narrative that what they're doing is for the greater good. They're doing it for the great white cause. And in this article, which is a very long article, but it would be a good read if you want, I will have the links on my show notes for the Huffington Post thing. They encourage these young men to go and commit acts of literal terrorism. They encourage shooting up mosques, shooting up synagogues, shooting up places where the LGBTQ gather. They call the people who do these heinous acts saints. And they know that the person doing it will more than likely, because like in this article, the young man that this woman who got busted was praising and called the saint shot himself because he knew he was shit up a creek. When you commit murder, whether you think you're doing it for the glorious cause of your stupid, hateful ideology, you will go to jail. And depending on what country you do that shit in, you might get the death penalty instead. Looking at you, Dylan Roof. So all of this hateful ideology gets these young men nowhere, but they don't see that. They don't hear that. Because the tendrils of their ideology seeps in to their minds and just takes over. It's why that fucker in Buffalo did what he did. These online hate groups have been prevalent for years, but they are becoming more and more dangerous. And this lady was a little dildo sales lady. Welcome to the chat, Beans. She sold sex toys, probably globally, to fund her nonsense online and indoctrinate people into their hate group. And all the while, these same people will spout how Muslim terrorist cells are the bad. You got Fox News who are going through some things. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. Who love to push the narrative of ISIS and all these other groups. I'm not saying that fundamentalists are bad, period, because we see them all the time. Anybody that touts that their faith needs to exclude, shun, or harm others for any purpose is bad. But these groups are targeting young, disaffected, disassociated white males into this weird cabal online, letting them write manifestos and rant, telling them that the reason they can't get girlfriends in touch, because a lot of them are involuntary celibate too, is because their white utopia hasn't been seen yet, and they have to be martyrs to the cause. Using no different than the guys who strap bombs to their chest for the chance to be in heaven with their virgin brides. These are exactly two sides of the same shitty coin. We cannot function in a society held on by these hateful groups. And it is going to take so much more than just talking about it. We have to be proactive. One of the things that happened this week was our GOP was wasting time as usual. They have a minute House majority. And instead of doing things like legislating, they had this three-ring circus about Hunter Biden's laptop yet again, because they don't have anything else. They can't go directly after President Biden. President Biden's doing his job. He is a good, upstanding man, and that's the thing that flies in the face of the kind of president that they want, especially after the fallout of 45. So they continue to attack his son, who is a private citizen, with all of these ridiculous, I don't even want to say trumped up charges, because even if he did shady shit with his business, that is a legal matter in whatever state he did in it. It has absolutely nothing to do with the president, but these fucking GOP idiots have nothing else going on. They have a very razor thin, narrow margin of a lead in our House. So they're going to waste our time. But one of the things that came out in this week of non-getting any actual work done was them grilling AG Garland. And AG Garland very succinctly telling them the most dangerous group right now in our country is white supremacist terrorist cells. It needs to be said. Our eyes need to be open. We need to understand that even if we are not a part of it, for my friends who happen to identify as white, even if you are not actively engaged in hateful, bigoted rhetoric, you have to be vigilant against those around you who condone it. We have to start speaking up. I read an article earlier about this 8-year-old girl who got penalized because she overheard a classmate saying that, oh, don't come to school tomorrow. So she reached out in a friends group about a potential issue. She didn't say that the issue would happen. She just expressed that it's scary to her to hear any student, especially after Uvalde, after several shootings. She wanted to make sure that her friends groups knew and wanted to find out for herself if anybody else overheard some stuff. Because that is the only way for our kids to survive nowadays if they're in brick and mortar schools. And the school decided that they were going to penalize her for causing hysteria, because their investigation didn't find that the people that she was talking about really had a plot going on. And it's like with everything we have gone through in this country with school shootings, for these school boards to penalize a young black child, because yes, of course, she was a black child, so of course they wanted to ding her for wasting time in Texas, which is a literal open carry state, when she overheard a conversation that could have alluded to something dangerous. Oh, she should have followed the right channel. She's 8 years old. And I know my brain had to even wrap around the fact that she had a device that had group chat, because I'm still 30 years in the past sometimes, thinking about how it was for me even as a teenager, because we didn't have cell phones. I had a pager. That was like the extent of it. And even then, that was kind of weird. My background is crazy, y'all. I'll get to that one day. But for kids to be able to connect online and interact with each other is something that I'm getting used to it with my son. So to have her reach out to fellow classmates just to make sure that nothing bad was going down, and for the school to say she caused more problems than the people who literally were saying don't come to school tomorrow. This is why so many of us parents are done with traditional school right now. This is why I pulled my kid out in junior high and put him in virtual school, because I cannot risk administrators who aren't paid enough, but the ones who decide it doesn't matter if they're paid enough, they just want to go there and pretty much abuse authority. The predator males, the predator females, the people in between who just don't care and are apathetic as kids are being bullied and victimized. And the fact is, in states like Florida, states like Texas, states like Alabama, Arkansas, even in Georgia, when you have those open carry laws, you are setting yourself up for disaster. And Texas already had Uvalde last year. So any student showing concern about certain conversations should be taken seriously. They shouldn't have to feel like speaking up would get them punished. Because that's all this little hearing that they did, that's all you're teaching these kids at this point. Don't speak up, don't say anything, and just hope that the next time this happens, you don't end up in a body bag. It's sickening. And our country should be ashamed of itself the way we continue to bury our heads in the sand about these issues. This gun problem isn't going away. And I am sick and tired of seeing the tiny caskets. I'm sick and tired of seeing photos of kids hugging each other. And it doesn't matter if they're a kid in elementary school, or to me, because I'm older, a kid in college, because we just had that last month here at our Michigan State campus. This violence has to stop. And it is on us to be vigilant against white supremacist groups online, to listen out and look out for each other when somebody says something that might, because it's not just in schools. It could happen on your workplace. It could be somebody you've noticed is stressed out. Somebody you notice might be a little bit more violent than they let it on. And sometimes they give cues. Oh, I wouldn't show up tomorrow if I were you. If they joke in a certain way, take it seriously. And I hate to be that ultra uber paranoid type, but there are far too many people that make jokes about murdering people, about going postal, about snapping, and people think, oh, they were just joking around, until they're not. Be wary. Keep your eyes and ears open, because we are not okay right now. We're trying to get there, and I do believe, as I bring up later on tonight, the civics lesson, that we can get there, and I want to pinpoint where we're failing and where we're succeeding. But I am worried about the constant rash of anger, the ease of access to guns, especially guns that I still feel should not be in civilians' hands. Looking at you, assault weaponry. Watching idiots pose for their Christmas cards with AR-15s like they're toys. When guns are literal murder weapons, you are using them for a purpose. They are a tool of destruction. And if you cannot treat them as such, you do not deserve to own them. The fact of the matter is, we have got to start registering these people. We have got to start monitoring these people. And we have got to make sure that less young, easily affected minds have their hands on these weapons. It is the only way, and we are not going to get there overnight. So while I hope that for at least the next couple of days, we get a bit of a break. Fortunately, here in Michigan, we're about to get, and we are currently getting, another snow dump. Maybe that'll keep people's asses inside. But other places are actually getting their thaw, getting their spring. And all we've had are people who have been cooped up, ingesting nothing but conspiracy theories, and angry and armed. And it is a toxic cocktail right now, along with everything else going on. So I want us to be in a better place. And the only way that is possibly going to happen is through proactiveness. Proactive when it comes to calling out racism, proactive when it comes to just being better people. We have literal groups attacking history, attacking women's rights, LGBTQ rights. In Florida, DeSantis wants to attack the LGBTQ so badly you would think he got hurt by them. But it's not about being hurt by them. This is his Klanrian call. And it isn't, like I said, to his faithful. It is to the people who are apathetic to see how far he can push it. And then you got asshole publications like CNN legitimately saying stuff like, well, he just released a book. Here's how he could become the next president. I'm like, I'm going to stop you right there. Because you already tested these shitty waters with 45. And DeSantis is already doing Florida all the way dirty. That state may not recover from the dumb shit he's doing to it. And to have the nerve to try to act like he would make a national leader when you see the destabilization that he's causing that state. Picking a fight with Disney, which has been steady revenue for Florida for freaking decades now. He's going to cost that state billions in tax revenue. And it's going to be on the shoulders of the poorest residents of that state. Because, oh, we can't make the rich people pay too much. They're the ones that vote Republican. No, it's going to be on the working class and the poor to shoulder the burdens of this idiot's blunders. So when people try, and when I say people, I mean news media, tries to push him as a national leader, not on my watch. Not ever. I am just so fed up with the way these games are being played and what we have to do about this. I'm going to bring up, let me get my stuff up now for this, because as much as I like the spoutable stuff, I think I want to just jump in to tonight's main lesson. Let's see. Yeah, boop. And boop. I'm going to move you over here. And okay. Make you a little bigger if I can. Yep, there we go. All right, let's transition this over. Civics. I know that by me even saying that, some of you are already turning your brains off. Some of you might even skip over this portion of the cast, and that's on you. I honestly really feel like, as somebody who grew up with Schoolhouse Rocks, as somebody who grew up hearing not only the musical versions of the three branches of government, who always had an interest in studying stuff like our government and global governments beyond as well, from the parliaments and whatnot, it bothers me how many people don't even know the basics of our current functioning government. So many of you have negative opinions of the government and what it does. A lot of you don't even personally invest yourself in what your government does or who represents you, but you have a lot of mouth. So tonight we are going to break down the branches of government for those of you who are a bit civic deficient. And there's a reason why I want to do this. Because last year with the midterms, I thought people were really going to step up. I thought people finally started to understand the assignment. And once again, my sister girls in the 91%, we did our thing, we tried. But there are still too many of you that don't get the president can't just wave his magic wand and make things happen. He needs a functioning Congress, and he needs a functioning judicial system to make things work. So I want you to understand the three branches, starting with our legislative, which is our Congress, which is broken up into our House of Representatives and our U.S. Senate. Our U.S. Senate has 100 members. Our House of Representatives have about 435 members. This is to ensure that each state has a legislative voice. They are to draft laws, pass laws, and vote on laws. Everything from the George Floyd Policing Act to the John Lewis Voter Rights Act are drafted. Everything from the mother infant mortality bill that was keynote drafted by Lauren Underwood. The current voter rights acts that Reverend Warnock, John Ossoff, and Lucy McBath co-sponsor. All the health care that you claim to care about, the environmental stuff that you claim to care about, all of that has to be drafted by our legislative branch and voted on. And if enough people in each wing vote yes or say aye, the bill passes on to our executive branch, which consists of our president, vice president, and his hand-picked cabinet, which is our Secretary of Interior, Secretary of Transportation, so on, Commerce, Treasury, so forth. It is, depending on the president, a big functioning cabinet. When 45 was in charge, it was a rotating door of class clowns, of people who only wanted to ingratiate their own pockets and more than likely did. But now that we have a functioning president, we have a functioning executive branch with a VP in Kamala Harris who is doing her damnedest to not only prove that she is the right person for Joe, but she is also the right person for our country. Our Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, who a lot of people wanted to ding last week because of the Ohio thing, ignoring Norfolk Southern's obvious safety violation, ignoring the fact that our railroad and transportation system has been under siege for decades now, and that we now finally have a competent set of leaders who can tackle some of the issues, but it is not going to happen overnight. And it would help that if we didn't have to deal with states who just look the other way, take kickbacks, allegedly, for the shit that they do. If you want better, whether it's transportation of certain materials, whether you want your state to even block or restrict certain materials going across state lines, that comes from the legislative branch, who moves on to the executive branch, who can, in certain instances, pass executive orders, which is a doctrine directly from the president, but those are not set in stone, and states can reject executive orders. And also, leading into our third and final branch, the judicial section. Our Supreme Court is there to supposedly keep balance. But the problem with our Supreme Court currently is it is not a balanced Supreme Court. We have at least two appointees under 45 who not only didn't have the credentials, have very problematic backgrounds, but no, we had to just ignore that issue, ignore their very ridiculous hearings, and we allowed these two pretenders to sit on our Supreme Court, along with Clarence Thomas, who should have been disqualified decades ago because of the Need to Heal thing. This isn't just a conservative versus liberal debate. The man has literally been credibly accused of sexual harassment. His wife is literally an insurrectionist, but he is still a sitting Supreme Court justice, architect of all the stuff that we are currently going through in Women's History Month with the repeal of Dobbs, and problematic stances on interracial, which is funny because his wife is white, marriage, and other things that would literally deconstruct civil rights. But this is the goal. And Clarence Thomas can look as dark as I do, but his soul was never black. So when I say it is trying times right now, because while we have a functioning executive office, when half of our legislative office is at least a majority of hopeful sitting senators that want to get stuff done. But we are stymied by the Republicans in our House wasting time instead of drafting feasible bills that could legitimately pass through the halls of our Congress. It is troublesome to me. And I know by hearing this, you'll go, well, Tin, what can we do about this? What is my role in this? I'm just an American citizen. If you are 18 years and older and you are not registered to vote, if you are not an active participant in your state and local elections, everything from your school board to your comptroller, you should have a hand in because it affects you. I bet some of you don't even know who your comptroller are. You don't even know what a comptroller does, but yo bitch when property taxes go up. You'll bitch when there's not enough revenue to fund street repair, to parking fees, or any of the things that people who work on the city budget take care of. Those people are elected. Judicial people are elected, not just on a national level. State by state, we elect the justices who will look at our children, if they're black and brown, as if they're already slated for the prison pipeline. That is on us as voters. And there are far too many people who have been lax for far too long. And like I said, I'm speaking like I'm only talking to black and brown voters, but I know who are the ones who have been really slacking off. Those of you who needed this civic lesson tonight, those of you who need to understand what our legislative, executive, and judicial branches do, so that you can make more informed decisions. One of the things that I loved about Michigan setting up, especially being disabled, the permanent mail-in absentee ballot measures, was the fact that I can now sit, review my ballot carefully. Sites like Ballotpedia, word of mouth still, looking things up has helped so much in this digital age to make sure that I stay an informed voter, to help my kid who is now 18 continue to be an informed citizen. And when he starts at the end of this year, whatever midterm, or not even midterm, whatever local elections come up, he will be ready because I have shown him since he was able to function what it means to vote and why it's important. It was on me to learn, it's on him to learn, and it is on you all to learn. Because if your state isn't functioning right, if you don't have legislators who care whether the grid shut down, whether the power companies charge you hundreds of dollars each month for, I don't know if I'm going to have lights. The weather is crappy, I don't know. Texas is going through it right now with tornado season. Hundreds of thousands of people without power. And one of the richest states in our union. You can't make that shit make sense, but they literally have an asshole like Abbott who can waste millions of dollars shipping migrants like they're dolls here, there, and everywhere but where they need to be. But he can't fight his buddies at the power company to do the right thing by the grid, to do the right thing by the people. And it really is on us to start organizing better, to start pooling together the people who are really loud about being blue no matter who online. But don't take that energy to the actual ballots. We see you. You're not fooling us anymore. Because if that was the case last year, technically this year, should have been a blowout. We shouldn't have had more articles about George the Pretender Santos, because he shouldn't have made it as far as he did. But he knew he could slide under the radar of that New York apathy. And this is why I want to get away from the dangers of safe red states, safe blue states, and all that bullshit. It is on us as American citizens to do our part and vote. And I have seen far too many people make excuses for why they can't do it, make excuses for why they just don't understand and hear. In clear, black and white, are the three branches and how they affect everything in our life. If you're in Florida right now, you are dealing with book bans, history bans, bans on your whole identity if you're LGBTQ plus. These are all being legally done. And if you're not down with that and you're living in Florida and you don't vote, you might as well say you're down for it. You might as well say, I'm open to fascism at this point, because that is what your apathy does. It allows these people to run roughshod over the people who have felt voiceless as it is. And it is not right. And I just want more people to understand that we have to do our part. I know it doesn't seem easy, but it really is. Nowadays, in this digital day and age, there is absolutely no excuse not to know who you're voting for and why. I'm not even going to tell people how to vote or who to vote for. I just want better turnout, because those numbers don't lie. Some of you have big mouths online, but you don't show up. My voter report card, people can look it up, is an A+. I do my due diligence. I've been doing my due diligence for over 30 years now, because it matters. Because when you're a disabled black woman, you know that whoever's leading could be the end of you. We can't afford to not take this seriously. I've never had the luxury of just ignoring something. And we have 14 motherfuckers here in Michigan, welcome to the chat, Respect, despite Governor Whitmer doing her damnedest and doing right by the state. Despite the wannabe kidnapping and terror plot against her, 14 of those motherfuckers tried to gun for the governorship here. It was shut down, thank goodness. But that goes to show you the dangers of having a state that has decent revenue now that we legalize weed, that has tech commerce coming here because we are making chips for cars and stuff. The boom could be a blessing or a curse, depending on voter apathy. And I want to do my part to mitigate voter apathy, because we cannot afford it, y'all. I know people think, it won't happen here, but it does happen. And it happens all too much. One of the things I say, when I lived in NC under McCrory, I watched that man target transgender people for no reason but to just be a bigot. Oh, we have to have bathroom laws. We got to make sure they can't use bathrooms safely. He literally crafted that HB 12 law to target transgender North Carolinians just to stick it to them. And all it did was cost the state hundreds of millions of dollars, as we lost the All-Star games, as several concerts and movie venues pulled out, because nobody wants to hitch themselves to this hate. And Cory McCrory, the asshole that I couldn't wait to vote out, lost to Roy Cooper, who has a very tenuous run there in North Carolina right now, because he is sandwiched between really red legislators who don't give a damn and apathetic North Carolinians who don't think that it matters. And the McCrory thing wasn't even that far ago. I know 2012 feels like it was 10 years ago. It wasn't that long ago in the past for it to not happen again, if not worse. So I need you all to start paying attention to who represents you, paying attention to who your state and local reps are, because they are going to continue to ban books. They're going to continue to attack history. They want their base ignorant and foolish, and they want the rest of you apathetic to it, because then we can be called into their weird theocracy. And I want to get to that part tonight too, because I think a lot of people don't understand the game plan. They don't understand the point of why the GOP is doing what they're doing. And a lot of my friends talk about this on Spoutable, especially Case. Those of us who grew up in the church, we understood right off the bat the really fervent, the fundies, as I like to call them. They're really good at pushing the word, but only to solve their own agenda. Whether they want the greed of making a lot of money and not having to pay taxes on it, whether they want the envy of their peers, but secretly have contempt for everybody, whether they want to hate on somebody they deem different because they think that makes them more pious. There are a lot of bad faith actors in faith who think they represent religion properly, and all they are doing is making the divide between spirituality and those who want to seek it greater. And I bring this up tonight lightly because it is a touchy topic. Whenever you talk faith, you got people thinking, oh, I'm under attack, I'm a victim, you're making fun of me. And no, I'm not. There are plenty of people who walk the path of spirituality properly. Whether it's just to study it, whether it's to speak it, there are plenty of people who truly believe in the power of faith and spirituality, no matter what their religious walks of life. And there are plenty of people who walk this earth just fine without faith. It is a big world and we all deserve to walk upon it. But what I want to call out are the people who use faith to say, well, we can't teach that Jesus is compassionate anymore. That's why women got the vote. That's why our world's so unstable. If we had just told the line and made him hardline hater, and this is where they've been going. That latest CPAC event was disgusting, but par for the course because they want a new militant wing of Christianity to push forward. Little docile Christian soldiers that won't question and will be lambs to the literal slaughter for this weird holy war they want to wage on all of us. And it is on us that see it, on us that grew up around the word, that believe in the power of spirituality, that don't want to see it twisted, don't want to see it corrupted, and don't want to see it culture club hate partied into oblivion. I think there are a lot of people who understand that faith is a personal guide. It shouldn't be used to exclude people because, oh, I don't understand their sexuality or their gender identity. Oh, they're female, so they can't be as fervent in spirituality as I do. Oh, their culture, I don't understand that. There are a lot of people that preach ignorance like faith, and those people aren't teaching you faith. Faith is a guide. It is supposed to bring you wholeness. It is supposed to teach you how to interact with other people. It is not supposed to close your heart and mind to stuff. And there are too many people that want that easy button of staying ignorant, staying harmful and hateful because it is easy. You don't have to think too much. You just, I don't like that person. I don't really know anything about that person. I just don't like them. Yous are malleable. And yous are exhausting. And I know that I'm not even going to get through to the people that I'm talking about. But if you are listening to this tonight or in the subsequent upload, you have to understand that we shouldn't be attacking faith itself because at its core, most faiths preach understanding, compassion, learning from one another. Even if it's to worship a deity, or like the faith that I tend to gel by, taking care of the earth, it is all supposed to help make sense of our current state of consciousness. It is not supposed to be used as this weirdo weaponry against fellow humans just because they don't look, act, or think like you. But unfortunately, there's been a rise in these charlatans. They have mega churches and fly on Learjets. They're getting robbed for millions of dollars in diamonds like that weird credo pastor guy in New York. Because they can convincingly tell people that I'm a prosperity pastor. You follow me, you'll find faith will reward you. One of the things that when I lived in North Carolina, some of the women there would say blessed and highly favored. And I thought at first it was a good saying. I thought, oh, that sounds okay. And then you start to really hear why they were saying that, and it stopped being so okay. That whole blessed and highly favored. No, it was just their way to call in more funds because greed is the deepest vice. Like, I love studying religion. I love studying the different themes of both virtue and vices. And when I say that greed is the vice that has its grip on our globe the tightest, I don't say that lightly. So when I see the rise in celebrity pastors, and it's not even a rise because I'm old. I remember them pastors, those televangelists, even the Jim, what's his face, and Tammy Faye Baker, and all of them. I grew up with these freaking character actors. Living in the South briefly with the tent revivals, they were loud and always full of different things like, oh, the pastor decided to run off with somebody. Nobody bats an eyelash because another one will step up. We're humans. We are going to mess up. We are going to really step in it. It is just the way it is. But we have given way too much carte blanche to people who claim to be faithful, claim to be spreading the word, and have only done everything they can to make their kingdom here at the expense of us. To the point where you can have viral videos of so-called younger pastors dinging their church members for not giving enough donations for them to get expensive watches because they know it's a con game now. And they want to see which one of them has the ability to con the most people out of their hard-earned money each Sunday. It's shameful. And it really has to be on us to call this out. Because they are not just fleecing people for their money so that they can have ill-gotten gains or flexes. They are literally using the pulpit to continue to push us towards a theocracy. And I know for some people, well, theocracy wouldn't be bad, wouldn't it, Tin? Would you say that if it wasn't your religion leading that theocracy? If we were being led by a Sikh society? If we were being led by a Muslim society? Maybe if the Catholics decided to rebel and take over, would you be okay with the theocracy then? Some of you think you're slick because you're okay for freedom of your religion, but you wouldn't want it if it was any other group forcing their ideology to be the national thing. So we, the people, have to be mindful, not only to keep the separation of church and state strong and solid, but to be respectful of the fact that faith is a guide. It should not be a forceful doctrine. It shouldn't be a dogma that we all have to dogpile or goose step to. We have to be wary. One of the things that I love about Spoutable is the sharing of different quotes and stuff. And one of the things that sat with me for the last couple of days was true. The fact that people think that, oh, we can't recognize fascism unless it's at the level of how Nazi Germany in the 30s was. And you need to realize that by the time it got to the really bad time, it was too late. Everything that was done was legally done. They swooped in, they took over on a local level, then they took over on a national level, and they started passing legislation both to euthanize the undesirables, as they wanted to call, which were mostly handicapped, mentally challenged German citizens. Then they upped the ante, rounding up Jewish citizens, disappearing them. All of this was done legally in their country. And if you don't think that that can happen here, we are literally watching Florida with the don't say gay bills, book banning historical studies for African American studies, and crying about CRT and woke goblins every 5 minutes. If you don't think it can happen to you, that's exactly when it happens to you. And we need to stop acting like fascism just comes heavy handed swinging in. It's always under our noses for those of us who try to stay vigilant, but right next to you when you try to act like, well, it's not that bad. Sure, my uncle's saying some awful fascism leaning things, but it won't be that bad if I don't confront them on it, will it? And I'm telling you right now, the testing grounds in Mississippi, with what's going on in Jackson with the dirty water, and Tate Reeves literally on camera, him hawing and joking about it, because that's what a good governor does. You got constituents in your largest black population suffering, and it's just another day for you, just another day to crack jokes. You got idiots in Georgia literally by the skin of his teeth winning an election, knowing that he was leading the charge of the 2020 big lie. He should be up on charges for helping try to conduct voter fraud, along with several other character actors. Looking at you, Lindsey Graham. But the wheels of justice for that turn slowly and may not ever yield the results that we deserve as people. So it has to be on us to evict these fuckers from their positions of power so that they can stop legally hurting people, because all DeSantis needed was a functioning bunch of yes people to help push these harmful legislations. And I've got friends and family who still live in Florida who are directly impacted. One of my friends is a professor. He has dedicated his life to helping people study, learn, grow, and his whole identity is under attack now by DeSantis' bill. It is not right. And for the people like, well, why doesn't he just move, Tin? It's your excuse for everything. Telling people to uproot their lives, uproot themselves from their homes, instead of joining them to protect their homes, is such an elitist, ignorant thing to do. And it's got to stop. Because even the friends of mine that could potentially afford to just up and leave shouldn't have to, because it still leaves a state that they love in disarray. But on top of that, you ignore the people who can't afford to just up and move, who are literally bound by income, by lack of just being able to transfer jobs, by the fact that some people just don't even want to leave a state that they've known or are comfortable in. You have to stop with the hubris of just move, because some of us don't have that luxury. We have to help organize. We have to get it where Jamie Harrison said, no such thing as an unwinnable state. And I believe we can do that. 2024 is right around the corner. It already feels like this year is going ridiculously fast. We're in March already. So it is not hyperbolic for me to say we need to get all hands on deck early on. I've already seen, and this is what I love about having Spoutable as opposed to other social media sites right now. Not to knock Mastodon, a post user actually getting better too. But what I like about Spoutable is I have seen so many familiar faces, and we have already started talking about postcard drives. Afro Sabby's on there, so I know I'm going to hear about the car stuff that she likes to do to help elders. We have active activists on Spoutable, and it gives me hope. And I think that is what we need right now. We need more hope. We need less people who want to just say they're about something, and we need people who are about something. If you are about that life, about keeping informed, about making sure that you vote, making sure that your family votes, your friends vote, everybody in your circle should be an active voter if they are 18 years and older and don't have the penalties against them. And if you are in the state where felonies or past criminal issues are a problem, you can help. There are certain ways to help those in your family that might have went through some things and now want to register to vote. I know DeSantis tried to put a heavy money penalty on it, but he legally cannot stop former felons from voting now. It is on us to work together and work around their fuckery to get to a point where we no longer even have to deal with their fuckery. And I know we can get there. It's just going to take time. And I really do believe it. And oh, wow. Well, the merch thing did come up. Speaking of which, I'm going to get ready to wrap this up, but I want to bring up the merch stuff because it does make me happy. Let me get the site up. And I know some of you are probably going, merch? What are you going on about, Tim? What do you mean merch? No, that's not the right one. I am having an extra old lady moment right now. Maybe extra web stuff, right? Yep, there we go. This. And I don't normally push stuff at all. I always felt like ain't nobody gonna want to buy stuff that I put out there or design. And then after putting out Axiom, I realized how wrong I was for that. But the thing with the merch is I wanted it to really match my personality. And while I don't have my direct art, I was able to find something pretty dang on close. And it's my kitty mug, my chronically unmotivated line. And right now we currently have hoods, backpacks, hats, phone cases. Let me see what else we have here. This keeps, I don't know why it keeps transitioning away from what I want. I will totally get this eventually. I've only been streaming for 2 years, y'all. All right. That's because I still had just the camera. I am super feeling smart today. But like I said, the cool thing about this site is there are a lot of options. You have our clothing options, which are basically shirts and hoodies and shorts. The home living is the mug, which I've got right here. It is a solid mug. I love it. It says chronically unmotivated. I love it. I also added both accessories like the handbag, the backpack, the phone case. And they say headwear, but it's mostly just one hat. And I've got mask. Because I thought, I mask up. I've got both cloth and the N5 mask. I've got my totes in here as well. All of this is to say that even though people have been super supportive, I am going to work even harder this year to start making extra funds. As you know, kiddos SSI has been touch and go. They are literally treating us like they don't want to give him benefits at all. So I have had to step up every bit of my hustle game to get more stuff out there. I am working hard on the second novel. Palace Media, the library app, just put our first novel on there. So I'm hoping that more eyes on the book means more people want interest in my work. It is a slow go, but I'm happy. I know that I can do this. I know it's my wheelhouse. So any interest in the merch or the book or any of that stuff, it really helps me and my family out, and I do appreciate it. So many of you have had my back over the years, and I do not take that lightly or for granted. And putting this stuff out there, I did not want you thinking, oh, she's just trying to grab our cash. What does she offer us? That's why I don't sign up for things like Patreon and stuff. I will never charge people for things like the Bonnet Chronicles or any of the vlog things I do, because I always found that was weird. I'm going to do that stuff anyway. Why would I charge people extra for it? But when I put out stuff like this merch, people will be wearing stuff with my name on it and my random Gen X style sayings, and it makes me happy. So if this is your jam, great. I'm hoping to design more. I'm working with my friends and others to try to put out stuff, especially once our Merry Band of Misfits launches. I'm so excited about that. Curie Bell is on Spoutable too, so if you want to give her a follow, please do. She is an amazing artist, and I love her Star Panic Ichi comic. There's just so much good on the horizon, and there is so much to look forward to. But I know that my job is just getting started with both personal and keeping informed with everything that's going on with our state and local legislator and our national stuff coming up next year. And it is on all of us to keep that hope alive. Protect your peace. Have a great weekend. I really hope that you get to some downtime. I hope that the snow isn't too bad in your neck of the woods. We're getting it here right now. Hug your loved ones, and I will see you hopefully Tuesday. I know last Tuesday I forgot. Greg got home, and I legitimately forgot that it was a Tuesday. And by the time I realized that it was, I was like, I am way too tired to go live, and I apologize for that. But my baby got home, and I just wanted to spend time with him. But hopefully next Tuesday, I will be back with another Tell It Tuesday version of the Bodnik Chronicles. Thank you all for sitting in. Respect, Beans, Solomon Isles, Axiom Wolf, everybody who has lurked. Thank you so much for your constant support. It means so much to me. I am going to get ready to wrap this up, honey. Did you want to fire it up, or are you waiting for me to do it?
Gem is my name, no one else is the same. Gem is my name. We're the misfits, our songs are bitter. We are the misfits, and we're gonna get her. Gem, the music's contagious. Gem is my name, no one else is the same. Gem is my name.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. See you all soon.